Hello, and welcome back. And we're doing the movie review over the film Simply Irresistible. So I'm coming back for part two, and we're starting off where we left off. Amanda Shelton, I believe was her last name, she just finished creating the dish that she promised to make this man for lunch, the crab Napoleon. She was talking over it, speaking how she wanted the food to come out, to taste delicious, to taste decadent, to taste this way. This is how we, as children of God, have been speaking over our kingdom marriages. We've been speaking the results we wanted to see. We've been praying Psalms 37:26 for the covenant of peace in our marriage. We've been praying the scriptures over our marriage. We've been praying over our marriage, the type of marriage we wanted to see. We've been praying the perfection of God over our marriage. But also, when she started to make the meal for his girlfriend, she started to aggressively beat out her emotions. I try to caveat this. We never prayed for anything to go harmful for him and his previous counterfeit. We prayed for the will of God to happen in that situation. We prayed that if we felt witchcraft going on in that situation, that they renounce, denounce, uproot, repent, relent, especially if they sensed us praying for the spouse and they sent witchcraft towards us. We then sent prayers for the Lord's mercy, repentance, deliverance, and will of God to happen. But most importantly, we prayed that our kingdom spouse's eyes would be open to what the Lord was trying to do in his life. Point being is we were the ones that spoke over this relationship in our prayer. So she finishes the crab Napoleon and she looks down at the plate that she was talking about. She wanted to make decadent and this and this and this and all of these things. And she's like, hey, she calls her sous chef over. It's like, hey, I almost remember what his name was. You see this? And he looks down. He's like, wow, you just made it? She's shocked because she didn't know it was going to turn out that well. And she's like, So he says, okay, I'll just take it out there then. So he takes it out. Meanwhile, him and the girl are talking in the front. And he's saying, he's trying to start his spiel that he gives every woman when he's trying to break up with them. And as he's about to do so, she digs into her food. He begins to dig into his. He's about to say something and she starts acting up. He's like, she starts saying, oh my God, you're not the type of guy I want. Why would I want to be with a guy like you? You're this way. You're this. You're this. She gets up and starts acting like she's drunk. I don't even think she drank anything. And she's like, me and my perfect hair and my perfect... She starts to say what Amanda was saying over the food. And she's like, me and my perfect hair. I don't need this. I don't need you. I'm done with you. Bye. And he's like, what? But he doesn't even get a chance to be like, what? Because he bites into the food that she made him. And he's like, oh my God, this is so decadent. This is so rich. This is so amazing. This is... Every word that she described the food, that's what he said was about the food. And he couldn't even think about the fact that this woman was flipping out on him. And then she picks the potatoes up and slaps them in his face. And he can't even think about it because he's still in awe about the crab. And he's like, I don't. Oh. And she goes and starts grabbing plates off the wall and starts throwing them. She throws some at the kitchen. They duck in the kitchen. She throws some at the wall. She starts throwing, and they're like, oh my God. And then she just like, I'm done with you. And then she walks out. And he don't know what to do. Because he's still in awe and enamored about this crab. He's like, this Napoleon is, I have to talk to the chef. Oh my God. So he's so enamored about the food. As she's coming out, she's asking if everybody's okay. And he's like, I am so sorry for this. But he's still like, did you use dill in this? I mean, this is amazing. And she's like, yeah. And then it's like two conversations happening. She's asking about the food, and he's asking about what she used while she was cooking the food. And for your God ordained spouse, you are going to have a enamoring about you that he's going to be in awe with you. Now, he was already enamored before he tasted her food, but it's going to be something about a skill set that you have that's, once he sees what your talent or multiple range of talent is, he's going to be mesmerized by it. It's almost going to be like it's going to be a muse to him. It's going to be something that, unlike what the counterfeit has done, which is put him under a spell, you're going to authentically have that charisma about you that's so on point that it's like, oh my goodness, you're the thing. And he's going to realize she got that thing. For some of you, he already has. Your God ordained spouses have been watching you. They've been looking at you. They've been observing you. You haven't had quite knowledge of them, but they've been searching and seeking you out and been looking at everything that you've been doing up until this point. If they haven't been looking, they have a close confidant that follows everything that is in involvement with their social media, and they've been following you and reporting back, yeah, she's this, yeah, she's this, check this out. They've been like bigging you up, and he's already been enamored with you. So by the time he gets to a point where he gets to taste what you already have to offer, he gonna be hooked. But you're still kind of, they were having two different conversations. He's talking about the food. She talking about the what happened with the restaurant, and if he was okay with what happened with the woman and all that kind of stuff. So it's some multiple things. Sometimes y'all gonna have some multiple things happening at the same time, and it may be confusing in the midst of your conversation. I'm the type of person that I can talk and change the subject 3 different times in the midst of a conversation. Like, you changed the topic 3 times. Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Did I talk too fast for you? Yeah. You're gonna have multiple conversations in going on at once, meaning y'all might be talking about marriage while also talking about career, while also talking about, you see what I'm talking about? No pun intended. But after that, he offers, like, don't even worry about the plates, don't worry about it, I'll pay for the plates. I work at whatever the department store. It's like, I'll pay for your plates. And he leaves. And they're all looking around like, huh, oh my. So he goes back to the office and he runs into his assistant, and the assistant sees him because she sees the potato all over his suit, and it's like, it didn't go well. And he said, he's like, this is her food. And she's like, did any of it make it into her mouth? How did it end up all over your suit? It went that bad? And he's like, I don't even know what that was. I just had the most decadent crab Napoleon I'd ever tasted in my life. He's still on the food thing. He don't even thinking about her. And then he starts to think about, he's like, wait a minute. She broke up with me. And then he starts to get into his own pride level, like, how dare she break up with me? How did she break up with me? I'm me. I'm a not remembering. It's like, and his assistant even said, you went there to break up with her. What are you talking about? He's like, but me? How do you break up with me? And the assistant, who's known him for years, is sitting there looking like, yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, she immediately goes upstairs and takes a shower so that she can change her clothes to go back to the department store now that she has his card and address to his office. She's like, I'm going to go over there and get the plates. So her friend, oh, you gotta love her friend. Her friend comes upstairs while she's in the bathroom getting together. She steps out in her towel with her hair wrapped up, and she's like, which dress? And he says, the pink one. And I think she had a blue one and a pink one. He said blue, she picked pink. He shakes his head and wonders why in the world. You know they do that all the time in movies. It's like the person picks one thing and the person ends up doing the other one. But he's sitting there. She's like, do not touch my dolls. She has like porcelain dolls sitting on her desk. And he picks up the porcelain dolls and is trying to get them to do this kissy face thing, which is so stupid, but it's hilarious when you watch the film. And she's trying to have a conversation. She's like, what do I talk about with this guy? I mean, he's a guy. Just talk to him. You know how guys think. He's not going to give you advice. There's going to be an imperative conversation with this dude. And he's like, just talk to him. He's like, well, what do you guys talk about? And he's like, we talk about dude stuff. And he's like, what's dude stuff? Some of y'all got that friend. Don't go talk to this friend about what to talk about with your guy. Because they ain't gonna give you good advice. Anyway, she makes a comment. And he responds, oh, guys like to do whatever. And we talk about sports, we talk about this, we talk about sex, we talk about blah, blah, blah. And she's like, I can't talk about that. And she comes out and snatches the dolls from him and sits them back where they're supposed to be. And then she's like, he says something about the belts, like the way a man plays with his belt or something like that. And she's like, why did you tell me that? Now every time I think about that. And then she goes to the restaurant. Not the restaurant, the department store. You see her walking through the town, through New York City, and then you see her look in the Barney's window and the Saks Fifth Avenue window, and then she finally gets to the department store and opens the door and goes in. She comes up, and there's a guy that is setting up the display. She's asking, I need to talk to the owner. And she gives the guy's name, and he's like, oh, he's upstairs. And at the time, he was up on the third or fourth level, but you could see it. You know how malls are made in department stores. They have the open area, and pretty much any floor that you're on, you can look down into the main department store. So he was up on like the second or third floor. He literally pointed at him. He was standing up there. She's like, oh, okay. And when she goes to find the elevator to get up there, she's like, which way you go to get to the elevator? He's like, any elevator. He's like, and they all go to 4. And he's like, pick one, go to press 4. I mean, as she goes, she turns to go and knocks the entire display that he had just eloquently put together down. Some of y'all clumsy and you know it. Some of y'all, it's not that you even are physically clumsy. You're just clumsy because you feel like you're not well put together. Your seasons have kept you in a state of disorderliness that you can't really seem to get it all together. And sometimes your disarray rubs off on people. So she bumps him and it knocks the entire display down. And she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. He's like, and he's about to have a crying fit because he just spent all that time working on a display and now you got to put it all the way back up. And it was like a 5-story perfume display. Meaning it was 5 levels of perfume built up in a tree style or something like that. And he had to redo it. So she goes off to find him. She ends up running into the guy that she's looking for. And he meets her. He's like, oh, hi, how you doing? What are you doing here? She said, the plates. Oh, he's like, I thought you were going to send me a bill for the plates. And she's like, this is a department store. It does sell plates. I mean, oh, yeah, we do. And she's like, so why don't you show me where I can get the plates at? And he's like, oh, okay. He was just startled at the fact that she was there. Your goddamn spouse, he's smart, but he's not all the way there. When it comes to women, he don't always click when it comes down to certain things. And when it comes down to you, he don't understand you at all. So if he's a little, when you meet up with him, he doesn't get it. It's like you're Christian and you have a different viewpoint on the world. You see everything differently, and to him, you're speaking a foreign language when it comes down to the way that you look at God. He may look at God in one way, but you look at God in a different way, and he's still trying to understand your perspective. So he takes her to the place to get the plates. She looks through. She figures out what plates she wants. She's like, I want 5 of those, 3 of them, and such of them. And it's like, okay. He's like, he tells the woman, he writes up something on a sheet and says, send a bill to me. So he was preparing to walk her out, and they're walking and talking, and she ends up bringing up exactly what her friend Nigel, that's her friend's name, and exactly what he said. And the guy's like, what? We don't think about it that much. She's like, you don't? And he said, well, if you calculate this, that, and yeah, we think about it that much. And she's like, that's impossible because it takes 20 minutes to have a good thought. How do I say this? This is something that I've been avoiding talking about. I even have a whole article on it. The Lord hasn't given me release to talk about it yet. It's a conversation about sex, okay? I didn't want to say that, but that's what they were talking about. They were talking about how often a man fantasizes about sex. Some of y'all, we Christian, and we have a tendency to be like, we can't talk about that topic, even though we've had our experiences, some of us, and it's that element of we become Christian and we become so sanctified and saved that we can't talk about sex. And when it comes down to it, we like, eh. So, what it is some of y'all been praying for your God ordained spouse. You've been praying for marriage. Marriage is coming. The door is about to open. Something's about to happen. Y'all need to get ready, because them sexual conversations that y'all been avoiding having, sexual conversations, the videos you've been avoiding watching, the things that you've been avoiding trying to think about because of the fact that you don't want to think about sex because maybe you had an issue with it before, maybe you dealt with whatever it was, so you didn't want to have that. And you already know that during certain points in time, especially during this time of year, the enemy starts to send spiritual dreams to you and starts trying to mess with your head in relation to sexual immorality in your dreams, whether it be with the wrong person or whether it be with the right person. But he's trying to create spiritual covenants and all kinds of stuff. So you're trying to stay away from any type of sexual thoughts. Refer to previous videos where I talked about things that I've been having spiritual confrontation with in relation to sex. So she's talking about visions and all that kind of stuff, like it takes 20 minutes to have a good sexual thought. So y'all gotta get yourself accustomed to the fact. I'm not saying sit there sexually fantasize about yourself. Absolutely not. I'm saying know that you're going to have to think about this at some point. But know this, you ain't there yet, so don't go into that headspace. I used to question God about that a lot. How am I going to, when the time is right, I'd get caught up in my thoughts. And two different people I followed finally caught me on correction when it said, you're not supposed to even think about them in that way because you are sinning in your mind and you're not married to them yet, so you can't think about. So I try to stay away from even topics talking about sex. I've been involved in some girl chats about it and all that, but we try to keep it as PG as possible, so I stayed. And which reminds me, girls supposed to do a chat. I don't know when they're doing girl chat yet, but yeah, talking about those things that we gonna need to talk about when we become wives, the things that we as our sanctified Christian females have a tendency not to want to talk about. So yeah, you're gonna have to get acclimated to those thought processes and thought patterns. Anyway, once they got past that conversation, he got an idea. When they were getting on the elevator, he was going to take her out, and then he said, you know what, I want to show you something real quick before you leave. So he takes her up to the top floor of the department store, which is the brand new restaurant that they're building. So he shows her the floor and the floor plan. It's not really complete yet, but it's almost done. They still got to move the tables and all that kind of stuff and get the finishing touches. But the floor's in and all that kind of stuff, and the wall, mirror wall and all that type of stuff is in. So it looks gorgeous in there even before it's complete. But they still got a little bit of work that needs to be done. He takes her over to the kitchen, and she gets another glimpse of that same French chef. Pause. This is what I'm going to tell you. Some of y'all are going to be positioned at the point in time you're coming to your God-ordained spouse's life. There is an impending shift that's about to happen, and it needs to happen in order to position you. Think about it when it was Esther and Vashti. Vashti had to leave in order for you to take the seat. This situation, you're aware. The woman was aware that there was a chef already in that position. She wasn't even thinking about it. It wasn't on her mind. But she's had glimpses. You've had glimpses. In some cases, you've had glimpses of your God-ordained spouse's ex. They might not have seen you, but you've seen them. And it's all in preparation for positioning. So they go back out into the restaurant, and they're looking around, and he's standing there, and he just starts smiling, and he puts his hands in his pockets and watches her, and then she turns and she gives him that look like, come here. And all of a sudden they're wafted into the completed restaurant, but the restaurant is empty, and they're dancing around. Your God ordained spouse and you have shared visions. You've shared dreams. I know this for a fact with myself. I've shared moments with my spouse in dreams. I've talked about them before. Uh, I've seen him, and I know he saw me, and I believe some of these experiences were when he saw me, and he wasn't sure at the point in time what he was seeing, because when we interacted in the dream, uh, he looked shocked, like, where'd you come from? Who are you? Type scenario. And it was a couple of times, like, either I pulled him in the dream or God just smack dab dropped him into my dream, but I wasn't in his. But somehow we were sharing that moment, and it happened a couple times. Um, Different scenarios. It even happened recently, but it's happened quite a few times that you've shared moments that you both got caught up in a vision, pulled up into some type of vision. So they were separated from their thoughts when his boss came out, and she got introduced to the boss, and all of these things are positioning things. You may be introduced to people that are in his circle that are going to become pivotal points of contact for you once you come into alignment for where God's taking you, but you're going to be in the right position. All of these pieces are literally chess pieces being moved into place. So, I had confirmation this morning. I was listening to the Healing Prophetic 2.0, and she used to be under Sunray Speaks. She was talking about this morning, you're going to hear alarms, which were going to be confirmation that your deliverer's coming. Your God and spouse on the way, y'all. Get ready. He on his way. It's like they are coming with an emergency to catch up with you. But as he is working on the restaurant, they introduce each other, then they split off. Hold on, let me get my place because I wasn't even paying attention to the notes. So where are we? I'm trying to remember what the next scene was. Got the plates. So she ends up going back, and she's in a good headspace. So she starts cooking, and the restaurant starts to pick up. I'm going to pause and say this. Your God ordained spouse coming into your life is literally going to alter whatever was going on. If you look at the situation, the restaurant that she was in, it was dead. It was dry. Wasn't nobody coming in. But having met up with him, now having made him food and all this kind of stuff, and it wasn't even the fact that anybody knew about her restaurant any differently. It was like all of a sudden people just started coming in, and the food became like this thing, and people were now coming into the restaurant. Word was going around, and more people were coming. So she decides to make some caramel eclairs. Let me tell y'all, I'm gonna pause here and say this. I'm a cook, so that's another reason why I love this movie. My mother used to cook, and I love cooking. If you really want to know anything about the stuff that I cook, go to Go Vegan You on Instagram. I put all of my Instagram videos of the food that I cook over there. So it's like, when it comes to this movie, this is my everything. This is my love for food. And this also speaks to the homemaker in me. I love cooking pies, cakes. Them caramel eclairs. It's like, bruh, I'm gonna be making them caramel eclairs. I'm gonna figure out how to do that. I need to get a recipe for that. I thought I put together a note that had the food from this movie in it. Anyway, but she made some caramel eclairs, and you saw how she prepared them, and then she gave them to her friend. It was an older couple that used to frequent the restaurant anyway. So she gave them a box of these caramel eclairs. And one day they're in the department store. He's talking to his friend, because that's what he does. He talks to his assistant. And while he's there talking to his assistant, he ends up, I don't know how it is. This man smells the eclairs in that woman's bag. Your God ordained spouse has the ability to catch a whiff of you. Just a whiff of you. Whiff of something. He can identify whatever that talent is, whatever that skill is, when he sees it, when he hears it, when he smells it. He can. That man ran for them eclairs like a hound dog. He was checking everybody. He's like, where they at? And he literally was smelling around trying to find where they at. I know who. And he went downstairs and finally found the old couple. He's like, what is that? I smell caramel. I smell. She's like, oh, you're the guy that was at the restaurant. You know Amanda. He's like, yeah, I know Amanda. I smell something. She's like, oh, she made me some caramel eclairs this morning. Can I have? She takes the box out there. He takes the whole daggone box. He out there stealing a box of eclairs from her friends. Ran upstairs to his office, hid, and called himself trying not to let nobody see him as he biting into these eclairs. Then his assistant comes in. He try to hide him real quick. He's like, what you got? And he's like, I ain't got nothing. She's like, you got. And he try to hide him. And then she snatches him out of her body. She's like, oh, you got eclairs, I see. And she's like, what? He's sitting there like having himself a fit. Your God-a-day spouse. Let me tell you something about your God-a-day spouse. I've been thinking this. This has just been a random thought that's been popping into my head. Your God-a-day spouse, the thing that you're afraid of about him, he's afraid of about you. He's sitting there. He literally is curling up on the couch in his office around this box of eclairs talking about, what am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Oh my God. I just stole these from an old couple. What is wrong with me?